Hi everyone, my name is Kevin. This is my introduction for AEP 800 Innovative Technology Integration. A little bit about me. Currently, I'm a Chicago Public Schools special education teacher. I do work in the city. I work in an urban environment, which is I found to be not typical in what is my last semester of this program. But I do enjoy hearing everybody else's experiences. I was a history teacher for 4 years. I then moved over to special education. In terms of why I'm here, why I would like to become a building administrator one day, I do have some leadership experience. I'm a former special education case manager. I'm not any longer. I don't wish to be. I have been a department chair for many years, and I do have experience on an instructional leadership team. I've done coaching. I've coached new teachers in instruction, so I do have a little bit of experience, and it's definitely a path I'd like to continue to take. So, in terms of technology in the classroom, a critical reflection is technology allows or is able to, when utilized correctly, is able to move instructors away from a typical traditional classroom setting where kids are sitting, they're receiving information, they're being taught at. Um, it's a difficult way of learning for a lot of people. And tech can allow students to create things, do things independently, learn independently, and you can touch on a lot of different modalities. Tech is also a good way to promote kind of soft skills, as I like to call them. It creates students who are more global citizens. They're aware of the world. Technology has shrank the world in a way that hasn't been seen just in the past 10, 15, 20 years, more so than it had in the previous 1,000. And it's incredible. And not utilize that kind of technology would be criminal, I think. It also creates real world type skills. The modern workforce asks for workers who are adept at using technology, uh, at minimum can type with some sort of speed, can navigate around web browsers, that kind of thing. So it creates real world skills. In terms of achievement, um, uh, tech allows more multimodal learning, which I think then creates more learning in general. So I think that you'd see a kind of a trickle down effect. You'd have more technology used in the classroom, again, with the caveat that you're using it effectively. Um, you're going to get more learning because you're touching on more learning styles, and that's going to also correlate to higher achievement. And in terms of school improvement, um, kind of selfishly, it frees educators up to focus on what's more important. We're kind of getting rid of all the mundane things like taking paper attendance, grading things in a physical grade book, and adding all of them up, and those kind of things. It sounds kind of ticky tacky, but those things take a lot of time. I can't even imagine not having a program that um, has different categories from my grade book and weighs it. They have different weights, and then it calculates the average score, and I don't even have to think about it. So we're afforded more time to focus on what's more important, more intentional lesson planning, and that kind of a thing. My own personal critique. I use tech to add more points of entry for learning for students. As a special education teacher, I am trained that it is my job, not just for special education students or students on my caseload, but every student in any class that I'm in, is to make sure that they are being appropriately challenged and that everyone has some sort of access point for the learning. Um, tech is just another tool that you can use to add new points of entry for student learning. So, for example, if I'm a co-teacher in an English class, and students are given a reading, I might hop on News ELA or Common Lit, and I'll have a few different copies of the reading, but it's scaled to different reading levels so that all the kids have different access points. I'm also a pretty big fan of the site Storyboard It. And if anybody isn't familiar, it has it's set up almost like a cartoon or like a graphic novel. There's different art boards, usually like 4 or 6 or 8. And students can then create scenes from a story or a reading that is kind of playing out what they learned. So it's a way of showcasing and creating. Creating is one of the highest forms of showcasing your learning, creating something from the text. So I think it's another great entry point. For my improvement plan, I'm going into this class, I'm going to be open-minded. I'm going to be willing. I see a lot of educators who are not willing to change the way that they do things. They want to stick with their traditional ways that they've used for a long time. And, I'm not here to talk negatively about any other fellow educators, but I think just being willing is a big deal. I'm going to seek out new ideas. Hopefully I'll seek out professional development opportunities. I already do, and I should seek out professional development opportunities specifically on technology. I hope to collaborate more with colleagues of mine. You do see things going on in the hallways or in the teacher's lounge, or you hear kids talking about some cool new thing that they're working on. And I think I'd like to be a little bit more intentional about, figuring out what's going on, what's being used. Could I use something like that? I think it's important to kind of add one new thing for students at a time, so that they don't get overwhelmed. You don't get a lot of pushback. There's not a lot of room for kind of navigating logistically through a new process, which can be frustrating for students at times. In terms of funding, when you consider adding technology to the classroom, that might sound to a lot of educators or administrators that it's going to cost a lot of money, and that's just not true. I think it's a myth that it means that it has to be a lot of money. First of all, I can use what I have. I have a lot of technology in my school and in my classroom right now that I can utilize. I could borrow from colleagues in different rooms, and there are a lot of cool pieces that teachers have acquired. My school is a really great has a really great collegial type environment, so borrowing from them would be pretty easy to do. I think buying any kind of new tech or anything that I might need or see as necessary, like I have to have this. We're afforded a $250 stipend a year that we can spend on classroom materials, and that includes technology. So I could use some of that towards it. I could write and fill out for different tech grants. There's a ton of those out there. You could always do a Donors Choose project. So I don't necessarily agree with the myth that incorporating tech in your classroom has to be super expensive. All right. Thank you, everyone.